Good evening and welcome to the City of Isani Committee of a Whole meeting for Tuesday, June 21st. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doing roll call. All council members are present minus Councilman Collison, who did call in and has an excused absence. Any public comment at this time? All right, we'll move on to committee meeting items. E1, agenda request from Scott, and I'm going to hack the last name up, so I'm not even going to say it. I would have said Bolsher, so. I'll just hold my comment, Scott. If you don't mind stepping up to the podium, sir. What do we got here, Ms. Wood? Or do you just want Scott to talk on it?
I apologize. I just asked Ms. Hillesheim to go print off something for a later item. But we'll first let Mr. Volker speak on this behalf on what his request is, as he did request to have this item heard. It's regarding parking near his establishment and also, I believe, residents.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm here because I got a letter from you or from the city stating that I'm parking on the grass. So when I first bought the building, I thought that was a parking spot because when I first bought the building, there was somewhat dirt there and gravel and stuff. But as the couple years that I've had it, I haven't put down any gravel or anything, so now it's grass. So it looks like I'm parking on the grass. So I spoke with somebody from the city here, and they said, no, that's not a legal parking spot. And I guess I'm confused how that can't be a legal parking spot, considering there's an apartment right at that entrance, and the people before me had big semis parked there, which, yeah.
I do remember, I don't know if it was a semi, I remember a truck being there.
Semi-trailer.
Semi-trailer, that's
Yeah.
what it was. I do remember that. You can just keep it on, Scott.
So, yeah, I mean, and I don't expect to park big semi-trucks there.
There was Class 5 there at one time, was there not?
I have some pictures that show, but, I mean, they're not the greatest pictures. You guys want to take a look?
Yeah, can I take a look at them? You'll jog my memory.
So what's the issue for you? Why, I mean, I'm not saying I'm against you not parking there, but why do you need to park there because of convenience to unload things, or?
Yeah, it's both, yeah. Okay. Convenience to unload things.
He's got his business on the main floor, and then his apartment is on the second floor, in the rear of that building. There was two semi-trailers there. I thought I remember more.
It shows in the picture two semis there.
Yeah, you can see them both sitting there.
I sure do.
You can see them both sitting there.
Yep.
I guess I always thought it was parking lot.
I did too. I always thought it was a parking spot. So.
I think it's when that was back when it was Shunks, it was a parking spot.
And that's what I assumed. And like I said, I just haven't had time to.
I can totally understand why you assumed it, because we assumed it as well, so.
So who told you you couldn't park there?
The CSO of the city gave me a violation saying that I was parking on the grass.
It is a city ordinance.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, can't park on the grass.
So he's just doing his job.
Oh, yes.
So let me ask this, what if he put Class 5 down there, Chief? Is that legal? I mean.
It's gotta be impervious surface.
Technically, in our ordinance for a new parking area, we require pavement and actually curb and gutter in our ordinance.
That's not new, though.
for
This
all
picture's
districts.
showing it's not new.
For existing, if that's what it's decided it is, then we would allow it to be maintained, is what I understand. So it'd have to be grandfathered in, and technically, This parking space has not been grandfathered in. It was grandfathered in for the trailers, but, it was specific to those trailers. So that's what we understand anyway, from our standpoint.
So why now? I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just wondering why now?
It is a grass surface that he's parking on, and it's against city.
Okay, so you just noticed it one day and said we should probably enforce?
How long have you been there?
An anonymous.
2 years?
Complaint based.
So 2 years of him parking there.
They said they had an anonymous complaint. I mean, that's why they enforced it. I'm not saying that this-
Whether it was me, an anonymous, or Tom, Dick, or Harry that complained, it was 2 years. Nobody had issues with it, and all of a sudden it's an issue.
And my plan was to put class 5 down eventually. I just been really busy with, I have a full-time job. I just been busy and I haven't had time to do it. So I'm willing to do that because I think with all the other properties that it should be done. I just haven't done it right away.
It's not like you're collecting a junkyard.
No, and that's, I try to
I mean,
keep,
you got 2 very nice vehicles sitting there.
yes, sir.
I know on the main street, I don't go much behind there, but it looks very nice from the main street as well,
You really don't even notice it when you drive by. It's
Right.
just,
so, right?
I think we're more focused on looking through to City Hall than paying attention to his vehicles.
I walk by there every day on my way from my home.
Do you notice it then?
I notice the front, I always look at the front, just wonder what's going on and that type of stuff,
Just,
but I don't notice anything in back.
just to be clear, we have made the other parking spaces behind those buildings improve their parking lots, to some extent. So behind the tailoring and also, Isani Retail Meats, they're paved parking lots now. Just,
Well, what about the one behind the next building?
yeah.
That's all gravel.
That's all gravel.
Mujras was able to have that be grandfathered in. When we did that alley, I know that they had to raise it up when the city improved that alleyway, and we had bought a portion of that, what became the alley from BNSF Railroad. There was curb added into there, and then he did have to, he didn't add it new, it was already existing, but he did have to add that gravel that he added to it, because that's what it was previously. Our understanding with that is that it is grandfathered in, because it has been there.
Well, that's, some of you probably don't even remember that. That used to be Shunk's Variety Store. I mean, this goes back to the 70s. They've always parked there since 1970.
I remember seeing it in a 1980-something
his
picture,
building.
actually. Yeah,
On
his
his-
Shunk's was his building.
Shunk's was his building.
And then it was the
Scott's building.
path, yeah, then it was
Family
Family
Pathways.
Pathways, now it's Scott's.
Okay.
And I almost feel that, you know, you allowed the semi-trailer there with the gravel, that should have carried on to the new owner also. That's just how I feel. Would I like to see him have it asphalt? Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what our code states, any vehicle with oil, gas, blah, 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 has to be impervious surface. Pervious surface isn't gravel, it's asphalt. But again, asphalt's made with oil. Asphalt leaches into the ground, the oil from that does. It does on and on and on. I don't know, I personally see it should have been grandfathered in with the building, not just because it changed ownership. That's my
Been
opinion.
used that way for so long, I mean, it's just.
Like I said, it goes back into the 70s. I mean, when you,
I'd like to see the Class 5 on it.
Yeah,
willing
I was
to
just
do
gonna
that.
ask Scott, how,
But
if we put a time limit on, like,
I would have it done in the next month.
So if we said a month to put Class 5 on it, she's a wrap. Are we able to do that?
The
Even-
council is able to make variance.
Even though that the others had tar lots, to be honest, I don't even know why they were
well,
told they needed tar, but
Isani Retail Meats was a brand-new building. The original building was tore down, there was an empty lot, they built a new building. At that point,
they tarred it then?
that should have been upgraded at that time. The one next to it, I don't know, you know, I imagine that was kind of tied in with Isani Retail Meats, because they're using that for their parking, so they're not parking on Main Street.
well, yeah, I think the guy that owns Retail Meats owns the sewing place too.
And-
Yeah, I believe so.
And maybe that's something we would like to add into, you know, if you decide to allow him to improve it with Class 5, is that if there's any future improvements to the site that we would require,
or future owners from here on.
yeah,
We
or
might want to change that
add some
language.
caveats.
I think I'd leave a stipulation anytime they do something in a building, if they're, altering the building, adding on, redoing the building or
I think you should
whatever.
just build a garage there. I'm kidding.
No, I'm
I'm
hoping down,
kidding.
I'm hoping down the road to maybe build a building, and I understand that that's.
Isn't that your lot too, that empty lot?
Yes, so if, down the road, if I do upgrade and go forward, then I would change the back there, definitely. I wouldn't have a class 5.
And you gotta realize any of his customers have to park out on Main Street or the lot across the street, or even actually parking over here in
Yeah.
the,
It's public parking in City Hall.
it's public parking at City Hall, but, Main Street gets kinda congested.
Crowded, oh, yeah.
I mean, try to go in and get your mail sometime, if you gotta go in the post office. You're parking 2 blocks away to go get your mail. So, he's doing Main Street a service by not parking employee out on the street.
Right.
I'm okay with class 5 within a month.
I agree.
Again, we have to bring that to council to vote on, so.
Can we push this to council tonight? Can we add this item, or do you want to wait for it, or what do you want to do?
Council, I don't think that is there really a rush for it? I mean, as long as the chief agrees that that this is going to be coming to council on July 5th, I'd prefer to wait, and we'll staff will draft a resolution to put on the next council meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll start the month effective after that date.
Good for you, sir?
Thanks, Scott.
Perfect.
You're
Thanks,
doing a
Scott.
good job over there, Scott. I hear a lot of compliments about my jungle gym, so
I like to hear that.
I
Thanks.
think it should be our jungle gym, though.
It is ours, but it's yours.
We were trying to strike a deal with you right here.
Moving on to E2, the Public Works updates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Or Council Committee, I will share the Public Works updates on behalf of Matt Sylvester. For in streets, crews ran into a delay filling potholes this spring. The asphalt plants where we normally get the fines material, which is the ones that are of the smaller grade, used to fill in the shallower potholes. We're doing upgrades and had stopped making it for most of May. I believe that they're able to get that this week, so that's great. Staff will only be painting the curb lines with yellow traffic paint this year. The white traffic paint used for crosswalks, which we typically do every year. And then stop bars, parking lots is unavailable on back order through the vendors. It was even checked into secondary vendors to possibly get that paint, and we were unsuccessful, so those will be painted next year. The 2022 lighting infill will be completed soon. Connexus Energy has called in the locates for them. In stormwater, all of the streets have been swept as part of our spring cleanup. The street sweeper had a main broom pump go bad and has been getting repaired. The repair has been completed and will be back out in preparation for Jubilee Days. A storm drain on Railroad Avenue between Palomino Road and Pond Street has not been draining correctly. The storm drain repair will be completed during this year's pavement management project. There is another storm drain on the outside of the Rum River BMX building that is creating some sinkholes near the storm pond. That repair will be completed this summer. In sewer, the lift station pumps have been ordered, and we are waiting for the contractor to install those this summer. The air release valves have been ordered. We should be receiving them mid-July. It was also discovered that an airline leak from the blower building to the aeration ponds. This is likely a gasket that is failing due to the heat from the blowers. We're waiting on a quote to have that repair made. Within water, the water meter changeout continues to be on hold. We are waiting to receive the data collectors for the fixed network infrastructure. Once we receive them and have them installed, we can notify residents of the start of when the meter changeouts will begin. Hydrant flushing went very well this spring. We'll be changing the map for next year with the growth that has taken place in certain areas. We typically break those into different quadrants, so then we can notify residents, and with the growth of the city, those areas will change a little bit. And then lastly, within parks, the community center, or the community garden has had a makeover this spring with the addition of more raised garden beds. Black dirt was added to the plots and a fresh layer of mulch was added to the walking areas. Staff received a lot of great feedback from that. Ms. Hillesheim was at the community garden kickoff, and it was very, very well received of how well the city maintains that, and in huge part because of Public Works. We are waiting for some grading to take place at the archery range. Once that is completed, the archery range will start to take form. And then finally, crews have begun prepping for street dance that took place this last Saturday, which was a huge success. A big shout out to some of our Public Works crews. We had Mr. Major, who stayed for the entire event and was greatly appreciated that he was willing to pitch in. if you have any questions, please let me know, but that's what we have for Public Works.
I do have a question. So what happened over here on 5, is that a city problem? Do we have a plan if that ever happens, that where the light pole moves 5 feet to the left? What was it hit? Was it hit by a semi, I heard?
Yeah, it was a semi-truck hit it, and, yeah, so they had a crew sat there and had a plan and moved it at 9 o'clock, I think, at night. I think that was struck around 4, and the crew stayed there till 9, and the rest of the crews came out, and then our officers and closed down 5 at 9, and again at like 1, 2 different times to do the repair on it.
I was on foot walk right by and I go, what happened here? It was right in the middle of the, not in the middle of the sidewalk, but right on the edge, like it was on the sidewalk.
Yeah, broke the pole off, shifted the whole pole over, but the wires kept it upright.
I was just wondering, I mean, right there, that must be county, but if it happened somewhere in the city, do we have a plan for that type of thing, or? I was just curious after I walked by
Well,
that.
the plan is working with that, we do our trainings with Connexus and with the energy companies, so.
So that's a police thing, chief?
Just that mitigation side of it, but there's not much we can do. So like when we have power poles down, we mitigate it until the power company comes. Usually they're fast,
Okay.
but we're at the mercy of them.
So that happened at 4 o'clock, huh? I think I walked by about 7, and I thought it just happened because it was just sitting there right in the middle of the sidewalk.
4 o'clock.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to E3, parking on Unity Boulevard discussion.
Well, this is me, I guess. So it had just kind of been mentioned to me that the parking gets kind of tight on Unity there when there's ball games going on and stuff like that, and you have people parking on both sides for the fire trucks trying to get through. So I just figured I'd bring it up, see what you guys thought about it. Josie talked to Nate Rudolph, I think, right? You said, or?
Yes, and also he got a response from Principal Dordal, which is the primary school principal, about parents that use that street for also staging for pickup and drop-off.
There's certain times of the day where they do that, but, which obviously we wouldn't want to interfere with that either, but I don't know, just wanted to see what you guys thought about maybe doing no parking on one side of that. Maybe on the side opposite the ball field or something like that. So people could still park along the ball field, but.
Yeah, there's parking in all around that ballpark. I mean, park
Yeah,
in the
parking lot.
park in the parking lot. You don't need to park out on the street. I mean, you can
They
get,
do, I mean,
you can get probably 50 cars in that parking lot. And then you also got the street that runs,
well, then you have Third too that
yeah.
park on it.
And you can even go park in the school parking lot. I mean, I think if you put a stipulation on there, you're gonna have problems with parents picking and stopping and picking up their kids. Because that's gonna, the only way you could do it is you'd have to put some kind of sign that says no parking
Except for school
except for
hours.
school hours or something. And even then, you could get it clustered in there. I don't know if you ever got around an angry parent when they're trying to pick up their kid and they can't get out.
What's your thought? What are you proposing, just one side then, or?
Well, that was just kind of what I guess I'd like to see maybe is we just do the, I guess it would be the north side of the road, we allow the parking and don't allow any parking on the south side, except for during school hours, then we would.
There's residents on the south side.
Yeah, there is.
Are you gonna tell them they can't park in front of their own house?
Yeah, I don't know.
If anything, I'd say the north side, where the ball field is at, there's plenty of parking there.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot right there, like Councilman Lundin said, there's
The only
parking
reason I
lot
was
across the
thinking
street.
the ball field side was that if you are going to the game, then it would save you the hassle of walking across the street, you know what I mean? So you're parked on that side already, was all I was thinking about, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, if you got residents on the south side, then
What would kill my curiosity is if you had cars on both sides of that road and tried fitting a fire truck through there, how tight it would be.
it's pretty tight. I mean, it's
I
tight.
bet it is.
Yeah, it's tight even with just your regular car.
So you've done it, drove through there with the fire truck?
I haven't personally done it, no, but I know that there was a call where they did, and it was, that's why they thought about it, because it was, you got kids running around, and you're in a hurry, you know, you wanna get moving with that truck.
Sure.
And, you know, then you're gonna try to watch for kids jumping out of the cars. So, I don't know, it was just a thought that had been brought up to me, so I thought maybe we could discuss it and think about it a little bit, but.
Well, I like your idea of the north side, Mayor. I think, I agree with you. They shouldn't, you know, that south side should be for residents.
Yeah, people live there, it'd be kinda damning if you told them they couldn't park in front of their own house.
Mayor and council, just to add about Third Avenue, as there was a comment on there. So because no parking regulations are within chapter 227 of our parking ordinance. It does say that there's no parking along the west side of Third Avenue Northwest, extending 170 feet north from Heritage Boulevard, northwest continuing along the west side of Third Avenue, 550 feet between the hours of 3:15 and 4:15, Monday through Friday. there
So that
are
would
some-
take care of it right there.
Well, there are some stipulations on Third about no parking.
But that's during,
That is so during school
Yeah.
pickup, no one's parking along that route, just let you know.
So it's not allowed, is what you're saying?
Not allowed,
Okay.
right.
and then, I'm guilty of it, I park there when I pick up my daughter from school. I mean, you're not really parked, I guess, but I guess you could be in
Is
the,
that why they're saying no parking during that time? Because they want to leave it open for people to come use
For
that space
driving
to
is-
pick up.
They're
So you're using
staging
it
is,
the way
I think
it's-
they're
Yeah.
staging, which I do believe there are, if I recall, because I was here when they put up signs along Third that said no parking, but staging was allowed. I think that there is something special about staging for the school pickup hours on that stretch, but.
So maybe we just do something like that on the north side of Unity and.
Fine with that, I mean,
that's all we need is a fire truck to go down there and wipe out somebody's mirror or something, or,
have you ever seen people on a freeway when emergency vehicles coming up to them? They don't get over for them either.
they just stop right in the middle of the road.
They don't even get over for them.
Nobody knows what to do.
No.
That's you're lucky if they see it.
Just start swerving, you'll figure it out, right?
I think the north side would be justified, absolutely. Unless it's during school hours.
But do they park on that north side during school hours? Gee,
They do.
Huh? Okay.
They do.
I'm never over there, you are.
Not
At least
anymore.
during- At least during school hours.
Well, not until Colton goes to school, but Emma's going to the intermediate now.
The school reported that parents do use that stretch to stage for drop-off and pickup between 6:50 a.m. to 7:25 a.m., and then 1:55 p.m. to 2:20 p.m. approximately.
So you can just put those stipulations on there.
Mm-hmm.
Staging only. Because they're not generally parked in a car, they're sitting in a car waiting.
Right.
So it's not like they're, I guess that to me is a gray area. If I'm pulled over on the side of the road, I'm not really parked, I'm sitting in it. I can move if I have to. I
Well,
mean,
the car's in park, so you're parked.
yeah.
Chief, tell him.
That's actually our ordinance for parking and stopping, I believe.
I knew
So
there
the
was
one
a
that's
fine
actually
line there with the law.
Different than that is like when they're coming, I don't know if you've been there, but down Third, they're actually in line to be going somewhere, right? So they're slowly moving. So I wouldn't articulate that as stopping because they're actually, it's a long process. Same thing with over on Centennial and stuff. But to actually park your car and sit there and wait is stopping or parking, so.
Do they actually need that area? Could they,
All the schools need all the areas.
Okay.
Every one of them.
Yes.
We don't have enough.
the only reason I
room.
wonder is, so we're saying, okay, just don't have a fire between,
So we could just say no
6 feet.
parking, unloading only?
Loading and unloading.
Yeah, loading, unloading only?
So just look at our ordinances, parking, stopping, or standing. Those are the definitions, so you can't park, stop, or stand if there's no parking sign. Standing means,
So if you put no parking, loading, unloading only, does that cover it?
But they're not really loading and unloading
well, some of them
there,
are
they're
parking,
staging.
walking their grade schoolers across Third. That's what I see a lot of them, because they're a grade school kid.
Yeah.
They're not just gonna let the grade school kid out and walk like they do in the intermediate middle school. They're actually parking there on Unity, walking their kid across the crosswalk.
Could we just say, you know, pick up and student pick up and drop, except for student pick up and drop off, and then that's whatever they do?
No parking unless student drop off or pick up?
Because that would alleviate, the times I'd really hate to put times on a sign unless they're really broad, because that time just changed as of 2 years ago, and who knows when we're gonna change
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, right.
To something different, depending on how their buses work, so.
Right.
We either have to have a really wide range of times, or you change the signs again, or something more generic.
Just don't do a time, yeah, just do that, yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think it's
So
well
the-
thought out.
The consensus is for staff to draft an ordinance amendment that would address no parking along the north side of Unity Boulevard, and with language to include to allow for the staging and/or drop-off pickup of parent or children of
Student
the-
pickup, drop off.
Yeah, we'll draft something up. Does the committee want to see that go back to then a council? We'll have to draft the ordinance and then post it for 10 days, or would you like to see it come back to COW first as a draft form prior to going to council?
I say just go right to council myself.
I do too.
Yep.
Council? Thank you.
Move on to E4, filling pools discussion.
Another Jimmy Gordon.
This one was one Megan actually had mentioned to me. She saw something on Facebook about how Cambridge allows residents to call the city and have them basically come out, read the meter. And then Josie had done some research on this too, but they'll have Public Works go out, read the meter, and then when they fill a pool, after the pool is done being filled, then they'll go back out and read the meter again and only charge them for water and then not charge them for the sewer cost of those gallons, so,
I can't believe Cambridge did that, but,
yeah. But I mean, it's kind of a nice service. I mean, wouldn't take long to do a meter reading, real quick. And
Besides paying for the wages of Public Works and,
they're already on the clock, I mean. So,
Can't imagine it's gonna cost that much.
that's all right.
I've always been an advocate that you should have a separate irrigation meter anyway in the city of Isani. I've said that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I thought we had that discussion already and we were gonna change that.
I think we were gonna,
All deduct meters, every resident or business are permitted to have a deduct meter in there,
But they have to pay for it.
but they have to pay for the meter and the installation of that. Anything that runs through that deduct meter, whether it be for a pool or irrigation of their lawn or whatever, would not be charged sewer rates on that, but that is on them to purchase separately than their household meter. That's included with the
That
building
just seems
permit.
crazy for potentially 8,000 residents calling Public Works and saying, hey, can you come read my meter so I can fill my pool?
I don't think we have to worry about that, really, 8,000 residents are gonna.
I don't think
No.
everybody, nobody,
No.
not everybody in town has.
no,
Well,
but
I'm
I.
not saying that.
But,
What
but
I'm-
again, you're gonna see that there's a very high percentage of people that have irrigation systems.
Mm-hmm,
And those people that have irrigation systems are probably ones with pools.
mm-hmm.
And it's only detrimental for them. My neighbor right behind me just filled his pool, come right off of his hose bib, and he didn't have a deduct meter. He didn't complain about it, but it's detrimental to him to do that. Now, my son lives in Lindstrom,
I'd almost
and he
just buy the
ran his
deduct meter.
irrigation, and it cost him $600 a summer. And it wouldn't be that much because he's being billed for sewer use,
Unless you have the deduct meter.
unless you have a deduct meter.
What does one of those meters cost? I mean,
Where are they, about $350, $400?
I don't think they're that much. Last we checked, they were $250, $300, weren't they?
Do you recall the new pricing of the new meters off the top of your head?
I was gonna say 287, but
Yeah,
So 300 bucks is say, and you're gonna have an average, you're gonna have a plumber come out and he's gonna spend,
26 cents.
you're gonna have him spend,
Half hour?
it's a couple hours, and he's gonna have, because you gotta bypass all the hose bibs and cap them and everything else. He's gonna probably have maybe 3-4 hours into it, so it's a couple $100, probably another $100 in labor. So they're probably looking at about $500-600. That's done deal. And that carries on to the life of that house.
And then you're saving potentially $600 a year. It's gonna pay for itself in the first year.
Yep. It'll pay for itself in the first year if you're irrigating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather encourage them to get a deduct meter than have Public Works running around trying to read meters and,
I mean, there's times that Public Works that are scrambling to get what they need to get done for the day. And then you got a guy running out, going out and checking, reading meters. That just takes away from them getting other tasks that they have to get done. I mean,
I just thought it was a nice thing that the city of Cambridge was doing, and I thought,
I can't believe they did it.
I can't believe they did
yeah, I mean,
either.
I can see your points that you guys are making. I mean, they're not horrible points to make, so.
I mean,
But,
it's,
I mean, it'd be a nice service to offer is all.
it would be nice, but I still think we need to get their time. It's gonna be at a minimum hour of Public Works to go over there and do it.
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
You may think it only takes 10 minutes, but it's going to get the meter reader, going back over there to do it, bring the meter reader back, plus go back to the task they were doing. They've lost 2 hours probably by the time they get done reading the meter for 5 minutes. I mean, it all comes down to dollar and cents.
Yeah.
And then, you gotta keep Public Works guys happy, and you're all of a sudden, this guy's out in the middle of mowing the grass somewhere. Hey, can you go mow, can you go read this meter? And he's like, Jesus, Genevieve, I can't get what I'm doing done.
Well, Council, we do use on-call Public Works to do our meter reads, so they're typically not also mowing grass. I mean, they could be, I suppose, I won't say that will never happen, but usually we do have a Public Works on-call person who is dedicated to doing the utility reads. Just like,
But that's just, that was using that as a reference point. I mean, they could be doing something else. I mean, you know, you own a business. If your employee decided to just go run out the door for 5 minutes, you know as well as I do, that 5 minutes turns into a half an hour.
So what is this, why do we read meters now? Is it people that don't have the smart meter or whatever?
So we don't have meters that automatically report, however, we will soon with our new infrastructure that is coming that allows the data to be pulled automatically by going through the infrastructure that we're waiting for that was in that Public Works update. So eventually, we won't have Public Works driving around to grab those meter reads. Tabitha, who's currently our utility billing clerk, she will be able to pull those data set right from her, from the database at the computer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is if we wanna revisit this in roughly 12 months, we should be able to just do on-demand reads from City Hall.
That's true, huh?
So it could be kind of a moot point to do a bunch of planning for, in the instance of having Public Works go out there, but in 12 or 18 months, I mean, they can just call Tabitha, say, hey, I'm gonna start filling my pool. Okay, she pull a read, confirm she got it, give them 30 minutes or 6 hours or whatever it takes, and read it again.
And that's the thing
Then I'm
now,
gonna
too,
wash my
is they're done
car,
filling
and then
their
I'm gonna
pools.
wash a neighbor's car, and then
And that don't matter.
Then I'll call 'em.
It's not going down the sewer, so. But right now, their pools are probably filled.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, I mean,
For
I
this
guess-
season, yeah, we're probably already
And
past
if
that
this,
point.
and I think maybe that we should revisit that
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, that sounds good. Next time we
I
take a
would
look at
still
it.
encourage the deduct meter, though, that seems.
Oh,
to be
yeah, I
wrong.
mean, that makes a lot of sense to put a little money into that, but.
Well,
If I had a
Mike,
pool, I'd get one.
Mr. Becker and I can look at that a little bit further, as you mentioned, when it gets closer, because there may be some other things that we have to add into our city code to make sure everything that we have is written is compliant with the new meter. So when we do that review, once we get rolling with this and have the ability to do things like that, we'll definitely keep that on mind and include that where pertinent.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll move on to E5, the dynamic sign discussion. Councilman Lundin.
When you drive around small communities,
Should've
I'm not
pi-
gonna say towns. I'm gonna
Should have
say-
piggybacked this, because you and I have had this
Yep.
discussion.
I drove by Athens Town Hall.
Guess what they have?
They have a dynamic sign. And let me tell you something, those townships, and nothing against, don't get me wrong, they don't have a budget like a city does. They only can control roads and fire district. That's it. They can't control anything else. And when you look at Athens that has one, I've gone through cities that have a population of 500 people have them. I don't know why we don't have one. And I think it would be, you know, we're paying Public Works, I'm assuming, Ms. Wood? to
No.
Go out and change our
No.
sign out here?
No, it's actually Anna.
Typically, it's Anna.
Yeah, and there again, she's gotta leave what she's doing and somebody else has gotta go do it. Take her spot. I think in the long run, it's gonna pay for itself, plain and simple, straight across the board. But we need to find a place to put it.
Don't they run like, what did we look at the cost at one of the goal-setting meetings was 80,000 or something like that, or?
Oh,
As
look at
Mr.
here.
Becker's
As
got
Mr.
the
Becker is
answer.
passing out, he has put together some numbers because it's not just about how much a sign costs, but how could it feasibly fit into the city's budget planning. And so he'll explain this.
3 mil.
Explain all your numbers here, Mr. Becker.
All right, so the top line, we got current projected levy, current projected tax rate, and projected change, right? So this is sort of the rough roadmap of what we're trying to hit in the future, right? Then I figure on somewhere in the ballpark, and this would depend on what kind of sign do we want, what kind of aesthetics, you know, there's wiggle room there, but figure on about 90,000 for the sign. That would be the electronics, the cabinet, the aesthetics. Do you want a brick, you know, base, that kind of stuff? About 30 grand for installation, which might include running electrical, who knows how far, and roughly up to 30 grand for land acquisition. So then the idea is basically well, how do we want to do this if we want to do it? If we want to move forward with the dynamic sign, do we want to start, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you can kind of see how that impacts what we've been trying to do based on that. I started with 3 years simply because finding $150,000 drop of the hat for current year is tough. Additionally, because we don't have city-owned land that we've already decided this is the spot for the sign, land acquisition could take 3 months, it could take 3 years. That's not, that'd be really difficult to predict. So this kind of gives that the rough understanding of how we might go about this.
That's always been my issue with it, is just the cost. I mean, it's just a lot of money to spend on. I can't believe those, and I know what you're saying, I can't believe those Athens, I mean, to spend that kind of money. I mean, maybe that one's not as nice or as expensive as what we're looking at here, I don't know, but.
Do you know, Councilman Lundin, what they spent over there in that?
No, I have no idea. You know what, I'll be honest with you, I got better things to do with my time than go ask somebody how much you paid for a sign. But I am gonna say one thing. It costs money to do business, as well as you know, Mr. Burgley.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
It's, advertisement is a huge, huge dollar amount for any business. You know, there is free advertising, but there's things that you can't just want to advertise that are free. You know, you could send out mass texts to people, but I'll tell you what, you're gonna probably tick off more people than they're gonna even look at it, because they're getting a text message they don't wanna get. You know, I mean, I constantly get text messages from things and I have to send them stop. I don't wanna see it, I don't need to see it. If I wanna talk to you, I'll call you. But something like this sign, it makes us look like we're part of the big boy club instead of somebody in the back corner street playing, dice. I mean, it's just, I just think that I think it's a necessary evil for our city the size that it is.
So, Mr. Becker, how big of a sign is this $90,000 sign?
So the basics of the $90,000 estimate really actually came from the Minco sign. So
The sign that they have right out here on.
the sign, that's what they reported on their permit was that was a roughly $90,000 job. So.
But that was completed.
Yep.
So then,
And so then with the sign, it's, if you just want a banner sign that's, black background, red dots, that's actually surprisingly cheap. That's actually a lot less than you would think. But if you want, color, and you want it to be, a big square kind of deal, yeah, the sky's the limit. I mean, you could spend as much or as little as you really want.
but then
it's-
you also said their permit fee, that was probably including installation and the wiring and everything else.
I think we can get it cheaper than this.
Yeah, I'm just putting out, that's part of what we're looking for.
I think we
is
can
if
get it a
wanna-
lot cheaper than this.
That's part of what we're looking at, is this, if we want to do this, what's the timeline? And then what are we agreeing as the aggregate cost, right? Land acquisition, install, running electrical, the actual cabinet and the sign, what does the council want to see? And, if you give us a number and a timeline, we'll.
I think
We can
personally
work
what
with
we
it.
ought to do right now is try to find acquisition for land.
Well, I can't help but wonder how much they paid for up. I mean, what does that thing sit, 10, 12, 15 feet in the air?
I don't think it's quite that tall, but.
Do we even know the size of that sign? Minco sign?
It's pretty good. It's actually a pretty darn nice sign for, they get a lot of information on it.
You don't think that thing's 10 to 12 feet in the air?
It's probably 10, 12 feet off the ground.
It probably is.
And it's probably higher than that to the top.
I'd say 15 feet.
I would say it's higher than that. Our maximum sign height on the overlay district is 45 feet tall.
So I bet it's 15 to 20 feet
Yeah,
up in
I
there.
think it is also.
We don't need to be that high.
Actually, I think,
And so I think some of this is gonna end up where we could even acquire land is gonna inform what kind of sign, what the size, what the shape, how tall, I mean, you know, I think at this point, it's like, if the council wants to go forward, we determine what's the rough timeline, when do we wanna have the thing done in a perfect world? And then give staff just an aggregate budget and let us go, because finding landowners that are willing to part with a portion of their land might be difficult, might be super easy, and then based on where that is, that would inform things a lot.
I'd sure like, I think I brought up the Miss Wood, the corner right across from the gas station on 5, on this side of 65, there's a stupid little corner that this guy has.
That's the one you and I looked at.
And that's,
Well, as staff, we've talked about a whole bunch of different,
but I think
Possibilities.
right now, we should at least get in the realm of trying to find a place for it.
Yeah, I agree.
This could be a 3-year project. Hey, next year at this time, people may want to give their land away. Because if the economy goes down, interest rate goes way up, people want to get rid of the lands, they don't want to pay tax on it. You know, within the next year or two, we might have that situation again. I mean, it's just like across from my house, those guys sold us that other lot for that park at like $6,000, and they were $28,000 lots. So, I mean, it can happen.
One thing that may influence the location of the sign is whether or not the council desires to have advertising on it for the liquor store. Is that a desire of the council? Because some locations will not permit to have an off-premise sign like that, so.
So we
that
have
will
to have it on the liquor store property?
Not,
It would have to be located on that side of Highway 65, basically advertising that business area. So within the realm of
Who's stipulating that?
the Minnesota state statutes.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, go figure.
Always a state.
Yeah, but it's no different than a flipping billboard sitting down in the middle of the highway. It says Cambridge Liquor Store, Northbound Liquor.
That's a commercial board, Councilman Lundin.
Well, this is a commercial board also. I mean, there's,
So what is over there? Is that the auto parts and the Coburns where you just pointed? I can't see from here.
you were sitting here when I told them. I mean, that'd be ideally if that church that we had discussed that land for 'em, I don't know what's going on there with them, but ideally if we could buy a chunk from them for that. That'd be ideal.
Doesn't have to be affiliated with a church, just a little
I just
corner.
picture the church balking at a liquor store.
It just needs to be 150 yards away from the church, I believe.
And it would be,
It would be plenty.
if it was right on the corner where they would turn to go into it.
We sell the blood of God. There we go.
As a church member, I'd vote.
Communion wine on Sunday.
Communion wine on Sundays, there we go.
I mean,
and so staff can do some more
Yes.
digging of what potential sites are being, and do some site selecting without divulging too much information publicly. It just does dictate, depending on whether or not council does want to see the liquor advertisement on there. If you do not, that does open more possibilities.
well, I mean, ideally, it's great to be able to advertise that liquor store. I mean, plain and simple. You know, we could put on our beer of the month, or wine of the month, or whatever, or, you know, liquor store at blah, blah, blah address. And that could, you know, that changes so quickly on there, but then we would, you know, primary focus is gonna be on what our city council is and what's going on, you know, water bans on, whatever. But I think ideally, if we can get liquor store advertising on it, yes, we should utilize it to its most potential.
Did you ever contact that gentleman I gave you the information?
I have his contact information. I did speak to him on the phone.
Did he
but
give you any kind of idea of what it would cost?
He just, no, I didn't go that far because I didn't know the direction. It really depends on how much we
I'd
want,
be
how
interested
big.
in-
I mean, I couldn't give him any information for him to throw numbers, but that he was.
I'd be interested to see his price, because I think it's gonna be a lot lower than what we're expecting.
I think right now, I think we should looking at securing land for it. You know, this could be a 3-year goal set, but it would be 3 years after we finally find a piece of land. You know,
Cambridge doesn't have a dynamic.
yeah, they do,
Where at?
right in front of their liquor store.
So they have
And I think they got
multiple,
one by the city hall.
All right.
They got 2 different ones, actually, yeah.
three, yeah, well, they have
3,
the
you're
liquor
right,
store-
it's 3.
They have outside the library.
Yep.
That they use like a
The liquor store and city hall.
And prior to that, they had partnered with Anoka Ramsey Community College, and they do some community advertising on that as you come in from the
Is it 4?
west side.
Well, that's community college sign.
But the city does advertise
Yeah,
for
the city
events and
advertises
things.
on it.
Yeah, because they probably give them some kind of concessions to allow them to advertise on it. I mean, and I wouldn't be objective if we did say that church piece of parcel, if we got that from them. To give them some incentive for letting us have it. You know, hey, you wanna use it for an advertisement on a Sunday morning or something? Gosh, go for it, you know, if that's getting us a location for that sign, cause I know Mr. Burgley he was all for getting that electronic sign for the liquor store, as long as, and that would be an ideal location for it.
No, I was definitely all for that, but
We didn't know where to put it, though.
yeah.
And didn't we even approach those people about buying that property, and then all of a sudden the church came in and bought it? I was like,
I think the church will say no. I used to go to that church. And I think.
I know some of the
I
people
would-
that run
I
it.
would-
Mike, you and I sat down with that gentleman. Do you think he'd balk, or you think he'd?
I think there's always room for negotiation.
I think so, too.
I would agree with
I
that
could be
comment.
wrong, but I would be a little bit surprised if they agreed to it, but I'm not saying don't try, I'm just saying that my guess is they won't, that'd be my.
And I'm sure if there is
He's all about the
something-
community.
So would it be fair to say that staff should start moving forward? We maybe plan on 3 years at 150, and then we simply try to come in less? I mean, because it would come a point where council would need to make a decision about what the sign is going to be, and we could lay out, here are 3 options, here are 3 prices.
I really think we're gonna come in lower than that. A lot.
Well, anytime I budget anything, I always am at least trying to provide a number that is going to be a little bit higher than it should be.
We know how you roll. You always
Yeah.
shoot high and you come in
Always.
low, and.
And I think,
That's the goal.
I think we
Yes.
should look at a 3-year goal on this, but I think right now we need to secure a piece of property.
I would agree with that, I'm all for that.
I'm not disagreeing with that either.
I think I agree, that's the first step. Do you agree, Jimmy?
I mean, I'm okay with looking for property, and once we have the property in mind, we wanna kinda take a look at what kind of a sign would fit there and see what the cost is, but, I mean, if it's anywhere near these numbers, I don't see the value in spending $150,000
I would agree with
to
that
put
too.
something like that.
I don't think it's gonna be that high.
But yeah, if we can find a good location and the price comes in way less and it's reasonable, then I'm not saying I would never say yes, but if it's anything like this, I would have a problem spending that kind of money. But I'm okay with doing more research for sure.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right, let's move on to E6, the East Central Regional Library link sign discussion. Mr. Burgley.
There's probably people in the room that are much better at speaking this than I am, but I'll start off if that's okay with the people in the room here. So I'm part of the Friends of the Library, and this is what's on the door here right now. I'll pass that around. And the door, I'm talking about this door over here. We got 2 different doors we're going to talk about. We'll start out talking about this door right here. So, yeah, got the sign out there. But anyway, we'd want to take as Friends of the Library, we'd want to take the one sign down and just.
Conference room one.
Yeah. Hold up that sign that we'd want to put up there. So there's the sign. Yeah, take down the conference room, put up our own sign.
Step up to the podium. Just push the button there, dear, so your green light comes on. Perfect.
Okay. I just wanted to say about that last discussion. When the library is open, we are counting on a man at the barber shop to put a sign out in front of the, on the corner saying the library is open. If we had a sign like that and we could be a part of that advertising. That, I think that would help build that library for us, get more people aware of it. We just had a presentation by the library, the bug guy, I don't know, and we gave out, these are the friends of the library, and we gave out an invite to this library, and there's people that didn't even know it existed. And so that kind of segues into what we're asking for is a sign, something in the front of the, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy or anything permanent, but at least it identifies this building is where the library exists.
It's never been used as a conference room.
No.
Is that a possibility?
Well, the decal, we're looking at a decal sign out here. And the other option is, I took a picture of it here, this is what's on here now. It says close on the 4th of July, it's a suction cup sign. That would be a second option where, when you, because otherwise that door might get too crowded, but if you put up a suction cup sign saying East Central or whatever that's it, put up your sign again.
East Central Library.
Yeah.
Miss Wood, as long as you can recall, has that thing ever been used as a conference room?
No, as long as I've been here, it has been used, and my understanding is even quite a ways previous to me being with the city of Isani, it's been used as a library link location.
I don't get
and
why
it
we have
is-
a conference room sign even on there.
I guess I've never really thought about it. I've never been approached, I guess, to make a change. And I kind of just, the way it's been, I guess, status quo. But we do have an annual agreement with the East Central Regional Library to have that link there. It goes through council every year. Typically, Ms. Howell does a presentation to the council, and if it's approved, it goes on for another year. In response to that, just as a comment for putting vinyl lettering on the door, that's pretty inexpensive to add, and if for some reason the link didn't exist or it changed hours or days or something like that, those are pretty inexpensive to take off
Well,
with
he
the
was even
razor.
thinking like the one you got up there, it's on a suction cup.
Yeah,
So it's come off. It's like you got clothes for the 4th of July. It's on a suction cup. So it could just, they could plop it up there.
I did look at it the other day, though. I do think, so on the one side, the one door, we do have Isani in the business hours. We could add library link to the other side, and there still would be room if you wanted to do vinyl lettering. I think that would be pretty inexpensive.
My
And
personal
then-
opinion, let's take down the conference room A sign, let them put up their other sign that they have. And if they
We
wanna
just get a
go,
sign made that looks like that conference room A sign that has the library info on it instead.
I think they'd want it much bigger.
Sign probably matches all the other stuff.
nah, it's just a vinyl,
Oh, is it?
it's just it's a clear plastic with a piece of paper slid in there.
Which one are you talking about?
Well, both these
Well, I was
signs
saying,
are-
I
both
was
these
saying
signs are-
conference room A, like that plaque sign.
It's not a plaque, it's a piece of
Oh, is that
plastic
what
with a
it
piece
is
of
too?
paper.
It's just a piece of paper? Okay, all right.
It's pretty,
The picture, it looks okay, but,
I mean,
Pretty.
pretty cheaply done, I guess we could say.
yeah, I guess so.
I don't have an issue with doing that. I think the
Oh,
request
yeah,
would be that we just don't screw or do anything to the door itself that
I would
would
agree
cause
with
some
that.
permanent change.
I would agree with that.
So if they use some
Even if they were to put up that sign or,
Even that 3M side.
3M
Yeah.
double sticky tape would be, we could still get it
If we
off
could,
if we
if
had
actually,
to.
you know what, if they can even get something a little nicer than that, then, and we could just put it on like a plastic sign that's engraved, you know, with, you know how they engrave the wood, and it's like, I don't know, just like the occupancy signs. It's kind of engraved into the plastic, and if we just stick it on 3M sticky tape, stick it on a door, can always pull it off if whoever has to. I'm
Is
fine with that.
Would the Friends of the Library be paying for the sign and the vinyl? Is that part of the request, that you guys would pay for it? I think that we could definitely have Public Works adhere it the way we would like to have it adhered if they pay for the sign and the lettering.
I just like to see something a little better than a piece of paper, that's.
I agree.
And I think the Friends of the Library, if I had it my way, if you guys wanna come in every 3 years, I don't care.
Now let's talk about the box out in front of City Hall. How
Yeah.
about that, huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, you come up here, young lady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're very welcome.
What is the discussion about the drop box?
So I literally just parked right by it, and as I got out, that
an
concrete is
eyesore, isn't
deteriorating.
it?
The thing is leaning to the side
know,
now. The
I know.
bottom's all rusted out of it. What are we doing with that thing?
Well, I understand that Mr. Sylvester is out right now, but I had a discussion with him last week on Thursday, I believe it was. We have a new drop box that is ready, and I believe he picked it up over at Metal Coatings.
Sweet.
And it should be in the shop, and we discussed where it's going to be located, and he was going to have to move a sprinkler head, as far as I understood,
Okay. Are you aware of that?
and put in a concrete pad. But that's entirely up to the city. We don't care where you put it.
So one thing that Mr. Sylvester and myself did discuss was moving the location. I was part of that. I didn't know specifically about the sprinkler head, but it does make sense to put it off of where it is, because the issue with why it's degrading faster than it probably would normally is because of the salt that we put on for anti-slip for just guests, visitors coming to City Hall. So the idea is to put it before you get to those big steps going down to First Avenue, making a little concrete slab that would go in the grassy area of the corner where that starts, just really
Literally
outside,
right here.
right outside the window there,
Yeah.
and have Public Works pour a little pad there and place it there, because then it would get a lot less salt, and it would be out of the way for the skiddies to come through when they're plowing snow.
Gotcha.
Yes, that was my understanding.
Okay. Thank you,
good.
dear.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gail.
I think even a dynamic sign, as this young lady said, we could even put something on there in 3 years for that library. I'm all for that library. Every time I come to City Hall, my kids run to that library. I've sat in there and had coffee and donuts with a few of these beautiful faces, so I'm all for it.
Would you like the Friends of the Library to work with myself, city staff, as we put together like what the size would be and lettering and things like that?
Absolutely.
Take mental pictures of everybody in this room, you guys.
Oh, at the Dropbox, a new
Yeah.
Dropbox?
It's funny to hear what Tim finds in there besides books.
I don't even want to know.
You don't.
Sounds good to me.
There's one thing I want to add real quick, and this will be a quick discussion.
And we
Just
do have another one to add to.
Oh,
when-
okay.
When you're done.
So I've had 3 or 4 different residents ask about a volleyball court in Bluebird Park by the basketball court. So I just wanted to put that thought in your gentleman's mind, toss it around. Maybe we can discuss it again later, but we have sand.
I was just wondering how well it'd be used based on the fact that bowling alley has them, and then
Wintergreens.
Wintergreens. Of course, if people wanted a non-alcoholic, maybe that would be an issue, maybe that would be, I'm not saying.
Family days,
yeah,
the pavilion might be used more.
Sure.
We have
You
one
know.
volleyball court now over by your house, don't we? That park,
No, it don't have one.
Yeah, I think there is one there.
yeah, I think it does.
By
But
your-
it's just grass.
Yeah, right, it's not sand or
There's a
anything,
volleyball
just-
court
I
there?
think
There's a net there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody must have put that up. I don't think we did that. Did we do that, Stephanie? Did we put a, I don't think we
That was
did.
long before her time.
The one at Rum River Meadows.
Yeah.
Is not sand at that one. It was proposed, if we were going to do a volleyball over on the Fur Street, actually the lots that you were talking about, Councilmember Lundin, to put a sand one over there. We didn't end up doing that, but
I guess the comment that was made to me, and I can't even argue the comment, was if we're gonna grandstand Bluebird Park, the only thing missing is a volleyball court.
Well, right during the middle of a street dance or whatever we're gonna call it out there, I picture people playing volleyball during that. That would,
That's on the other side of, the basketball court is, as you come into the park, it's not near that, but.
Across the street.
But they
Oh,
could,
okay,
they
yeah.
potentially could.
sure.
I mean,
You
it's the
could still,
only,
you could still hear the music well from there, I bet, so.
oh, yeah. So, just food for thought.
It'd be a nice thing to have there. Can't cost that much to bring in a little sand.
We have the
And
sand
you gotta
already.
maintain it.
We have the sand.
You gotta remember,
Maintain it, yeah,
pulling grass,
yeah.
We maintain that park anyway.
but they're not out pulling grass. They're mowing grass. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're telling guys to go out and pull grass out of the.
Food for thought. Anyway, let's move on to what you had. What item do you got, Ms. Wood?
Ms. Hillesheim has an item to add, which would be the outdoor DNR grant update.
We did get notified last week that we received $300,000 from the state of Minnesota for the splash pad and bathroom
Well,
project.
Look at that.
So,
And bathrooms are what?
for the bathrooms and the splash park.
Holy Hannah.
And how much did we need for it all?
It covers half of the project costs.
And when was that budgeted for, Mike?
I'd originally budgeted 218,000 for the splash pad and 218,000 for the restrooms,
Okay, and then that was budgeted for what year?
2023.
And that would fall within the state's guidelines on that?
Yes, so we wouldn't be able to start construction until July 1st of 2023 is what
And
she
it's
said
half
to
paid
start.
for.
And there will be a grant agreement coming to the council in the future to formally accept that, but we're still awaiting that paperwork, so.
That's pretty decent.
So what was our final cost on that then? You said 300,000?
It was closer to the 700,000 for the total cost.
Yeah,
of-
basically.
We have to pay half that, so 350,000?
Yeah, it's closer to the complete 436,000 that we had.
Yeah, basically, I
together.
think the state is expecting that we'll contribute our budgeted share that we already had for 436, that they would then could kick in the 700,000, or the 300,000, I should say.
Yeah,
So, but we'll have to wait and see what the final grant agreement documents say, like what is
They didn't
what
follow
wiggle
that
room is there, or is there not, or what stipulations, so.
So we didn't follow that whole discussion, it would,
Yeah,
our
and-
final bill would be
Exactly.
700,000 minus the 300,000, 400,000?
Yeah, basically, our final bill will be exactly what we budgeted.
Okay.
And basically, the state's gonna cover everything above that, up to 300 grand, so.
which
a good deal.
is considering the increased cost of.
Wait a minute.
everything.
What'd you just say?
I said, that's a good deal.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, I mean, 300,000 is, it's good money.
There were $12.5 million in requests and 5.2, I believe, or 5.4 in dollars appropriated. So it was very competitive, and we had a good project, so it's good. It's good news.
We almost can't afford not to do it at that point. I mean, then that also solves the problem of getting restrooms out for the amphitheater. Which, sooner or later, that's gonna come down the pike anyway.
Yeah, that'll give us adequate funding to be able to put in, a 6-stall bathroom and have that bill up a lot more appropriate.
Can you say that one more time, Mike?
The DNR grant will give us an opportunity to put in a 6-stall.
No, it was a
Bathroom.
good deal. That's what you
It
shocked me
als-
when you said that.
The application includes the fitness equipment along the trail as well as the pollinator gardens that will, or the butterfly gardens that will be near to add some more dimension to the park too, near the trail and the playground and the splash park.
And then we could eliminate getting the portable satellites out there. Right?
Money saved.
What does that cost us a year over there? Mike?
I remember signing that check and seeing that crazy amount, but it was a yearly cost, if I am correct.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't speak off the top of my head on that one.
So even on a city dance, we would not have to pull in,
Oh, we'd still have to pull in extras.
okay, during that time we would, okay, just,
But the normal amphitheater would, whatever would happen out there, it would cover that, cover the playground, it would cover,
and how does that look like, if you have like, what did we open that up with? Was that April that we had that concert or whatever that was out there? Didn't we have an opening with the?
I don't
bathroom
recall that
open then?
date.
Because I know some people lock up their, you go to a city and you go to use the bathroom, and if it's not after Memorial Day weekend, those bathrooms.
we'd have to look into that. It
Those
would,
bathrooms are locked up solid.
We typically remove the portables right before Halloween weekend, so it's in October, and then we put them out in usually the end of April or so, or
So were they
sometime in
out-
April.
Yeah, were they out there when we had that first event at the amphitheater?
The first event at the amphitheater.
Didn't we have a concert?
Yeah, the opening, the ribbon cutting.
no, he's talking about, he's thinking we had the street dance out there this
No,
weekend.
no,
Oh,
no,
no,
no.
no.
I'm
No, the ribbon cutting.
We did not have anything this spring yet in that. Our first event will be July 26th in the amphitheater,
Which is the street dance, is that what that is?
which is a family event. There's a family event series on Tuesday. It's in there. It's July 26th, August 9th, and August 30th, and it's family entertainment. So those are,
I guess I'm just trying to drive out, what would that look like if we had bathrooms out there? If we had an event on April 15th or something, would we open
It will definitely limit the number of restrooms we'll need. It really depends on what size and how many stalls we can get. We, I think, proposed 2 or 3 of each.
But you gotta
women's and
realize,
men's restrooms.
a lot of those restrooms are driven by the weather. And if it's shallow buried water lines, you gotta drain them and you can't turn them on too soon. A lot of that stuff's driven by that.
No, I get that, I'm just
So
wondering, I'm just wondering what happens when we do have.
Then I guess we'll have to get more satellites out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the
that's-
answer I was looking for.
I mean,
figured
we'll
was
still
what
have
we
to
were-
get them, but not nearly as many.
Okay, well, but if it was an April event, you'd probably get,
We wouldn't even need any. I mean, I bet you that bathroom would take care of itself. But a street dance out there, we would need more.
but what I'm saying is, if it was April 15th, you wouldn't have your bathrooms open yet.
He's referring to when we would open the bathrooms, and that's all determined by weather.
Yeah.
That's, because you're not gonna put in forced air furnaces and air conditioning in there.
You,
I mean, you can't do that, and if we did that, it would
well, you could, but the cost would go through the roof.
it'd blow the budget completely out of the ground. But the whole point of it is, it's just like the state fair. They don't run they don't run them all summer long. They shut them off after an event, they turn them on when another event starts. They don't leave them on.
No, I get that, I was just wondering, we probably do the same thing, right, based on,
I think once they're open, they're gonna stay open. It's gonna depend on the weather.
right?
Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
You made my evening, Stephanie. Especially when Mike said it was a good deal.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I mean, I had one other question real quick for you. I wish Dan was here to kind of pick his brain on that too, but the Highway 65 overlay, I've just been thinking about that a little bit here lately and wanted to see what you guys thought about it. But and I asked the staff to dig into it a little bit on some of these businesses and kind of look at how that affects them. And Isani Ready Mix, you know, they can't expand their business where they're at. Knife River can't expand where they're at. You know, Strike Funeral Home is not approved in the 65 overlay, so I mean, they have some limitations. I mean, is there any interest in maybe looking at, you know, maybe doing some carve-outs on some of this Highway 65 overlay stuff, or maybe just changing that to a B2 district, so it's a little less?
Why couldn't they expand?
Well, Stephanie might be able to answer that a little bit better than I can.
They are technically not a permitted use, but they're grandfathered in.
Which one?
Strike Funeral Home.
So
Any of them.
Strike Funeral Home, Isani Ready Mix, Knife River,
Were you not here that night that we went?
the John Deere facility.
Not saying ready mix, I didn't think, I don't.
So, let me
I'm not
run.
saying we need to get into the weeds on a few.
Let me run this
Just
scenario
wondering
by
if
you.
you're
What if, and I'm not saying he would, nor am I saying he wouldn't, but what if Jerry over there decided he was going to let the commercial happen in the front of his property, but he wanted to push his business to the back of it? Is that possible? Because he owns a pretty big chunk there, if I'm correct.
That isn't the
Yeah, I
way
mean,
that,
you just
that
you've
is,
got businesses that have been here forever, and it's like, we don't wanna limit what they're doing, and
well, the whole object of that, and I'm not disagreeing with it, and I'm not agreeing with it. The whole object of the business overlay district was to attract better buildings, because that's a higher tax rated area.
Which
Now,
is
you go a
understandable,
block,
but
you go a block past Strikes, because Mr. Burgley and I both argued with the fact with Strikes. That business was there back in 1965. And the argument was, well, he wasn't allowed to build it then, but he just built it. Well, dude, 1965, there was a lot of things. It wasn't 1980, we did a lot of things in the city of Isani we don't do now.
and you would never know that was a funeral home. The building's beautiful.
Yeah, they do a great job, you know, you drive by that at night.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
it's beautiful.
I don't disagree with,
Then when you come
That
north or
was-
south on 65, you notice all the Isani cement trucks, and everybody, it's like a landmark to the city. So,
The Isani Ready Mix specifically and Knife River actually are non-conforming uses even in the B2 district. So because they're located in the red, they're not allowed to expand. They can change ownership and they can remain in business, But they can't expand their business at all in that district either, because it's a non-conforming use.
What we, in order for them to be able to expand and do what they want, we'd have to change to like industrial then, right? Or
Yep, or we could allow that use specifically within the B2 district, which I'm not sure
And
if
see,
that-
if I'm not
that's the right
mistaken,
thing either,
the
but,
city of Isani signs borders the north end of his property.
and technically could go miles,
Well, you
2
mean-
miles past it.
Technically, but
But-
technically, the guy could die in an hour from now. I mean, I mean, it's all unknowns. If Mr. Lossie came in here today and asked if he could expand his business, I'd say absolutely.
I'd be
I
for it,
wouldn't
too.
argue one bit with him.
Nor would I.
Now, Knife River, they kind of came in after the fact. That Isani Radio Mix has been there since late 70s.
I thought it was early 70s, but you could
Well,
be
I
right.
kept,
You could be right.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, for Christ's sake. Give me a break. No.
I thought it's been there longer than I've been
It's been there
alive.
as long as I can remember. And Knife River, within the last 10 years.
And you had French toast, by the way.
No, I didn't. Had a breakfast bowl that I make. I did not agree with the district overlay, 65 overlay district. I did not necessarily agree with that. Mr. Berkeley and I both argued the fact that strikes was being stapled because of that stipulation being put on it. And I didn't think that was right.
And I get what, you know, the other argument of it too is that you do want commercial properties that are paying, you know.
And you want a better looking building, and that
Yeah,
was the
but that's
whole
what I'm
object of
saying,
it.
is why couldn't we have that better looking building up front? And if he wanted to go to the back of his 40 acres or whatever he has there, why couldn't he? I don't understand why.
And I could care less about that. You're
Because
not
it's in
gonna
the
see it.
B2 district. So it's not just the overlay district that's restricting him, it's the B2 district.
That's not right.
But like I
And-
said,
The guy's a founder of the city, for crying out loud.
We would, I mean, we can look at the future land use plan and the zoning, and, I mean, that's
We might
up
wanna
to you
discuss
guys to
it, 'cause I-
change that, if that's what you feel it should be,
like I said,
a different zone.
like I said, if he came in here and asked to do something, I would really work with him to make it happen.
I would
really,
too.
honestly, I would.
But that's why I think.
And I would
if
do
we
that with
wanna-
every
yeah,
business.
But I mean,
And that's kinda like we did with the sign thing, case by case. And I don't think we're stifling anybody by doing that. If they come in and it makes sense and it's gonna work, I have no problem doing it.
right, but I mean, what
I just don't
but-
want them to come in and build a pole barn in the middle of the flipping highway.
But we feel like that today, that's my point, is that we should change that now while we feel like that, so that they, because I mean, you may get other
And
people
there's no
in here
different than
that
the next
don't
group
feel
that
like
comes
you do.
in
They
that
could
wants to
change it right
back.
back.
And they could do that, so it doesn't
is
make,
true.
if we set
But
a standard
since
to
the
do
Highway
it now.
65 overlay stuff has been in place, we've adhered to it for a long time now.
But we've also bent the rules on it.
We've bent a lot.
Yeah, we have, but.
So, I mean, I say leave it the way it is. If they wanna have something in and bring it into discussion, absolutely. I don't wanna be a city that is not business friendly. That is one of the reasons I'm on this council,
Yeah.
is for the businesses.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'd like to see them have more flexibility now that's built in and guaranteed, and then if they want.
But I also would rather them come in knowingly they have to build a decent building than just thinking they're gonna throw up a galvanized pole barn.
I don't think Councilman Gordon's saying that.
No,
I-
but that's what's going to happen if you start loosening that.
I don't.
I mean, when I
but-
say no, I know we've said we bent the rules, but when the hotel came in here and wanted to have their sign, I wasn't in favor of what we made them do. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't have a nice sign, and as a hotel, they're gonna have a nice sign.
And
but-
they didn't.
But we
have-
made them put a brick and this and that and everything
And
else.
we did not make them put up the 4 feet high a brick like they were supposed to. And that sign looks absolutely fabulous.
And they didn't balk.
And they didn't balk. All we did is made them put stone around the bottom, and that's it. And they got planters around it. And that is not what that overlay district required. That overlay district requires 4 feet high of brick.
I know we say all that, but you go down to the south side of Colburn's, their south sign, which is just as tall as their north sign, does not have the 4 feet of brick.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. I went out there right after we had that meeting.
I went out there also, and I looked at it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go take a picture of it.
Yeah, you do that, because it
I
is.
will.
It's up on brick, and then there's steel posts that come out of it. I know exactly what it looks like.
On the north
I went
I
and looked
don't,
at it.
I don't, so I'm not gonna argue it.
But it's just, the point is you have to have a guide to start. And I have no objection to changing from what it's requiring. It's there, it's there.
Yeah.
But we can alter that.
Right.
I'm one to say if he came in here today and said, hey, I want to push my business to the back 40 and you can commercialize the hell out of the front of it if you want. Okay. I'd help the guy out. He's been a founder of this community since I've been alive, so I'm not gonna balk at that guy.
But my whole point is, I think we should just leave it the way it is. If they want to do something, they could come in here.
The one thing we do have to keep in mind is that when we do it on a case-by-case basis, we have to look at precedents. So we couldn't choose to make one decision for Isani Ready Mix and then hold Knife River to a different standard.
Well, then have Knife River come in here too.
So, but just to keep mindful of that, just longevity doesn't matter, it's the basis for your change, I guess.
And Jeff, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think that, I mean, eventually that maybe would be what he would do, is he would move his stuff to the
He just
back
wants
and
to
then-
go to the back of it.
And let the
and
front
let
of
the
it.
commercial
Why not
happen.
make it all industrial now so that he's got flexibility and then, you know, or
Because
Knife River has
technically,
flexibility.
he's not in the city limits.
Right.
He's not.
But he's within the zoning area of the city, right? So, that's all I'm saying, is I'd rather have the people have more
Well,
flexibility
I'm
now.
gonna bring something up right now when you come into this.
Okay.
And this is really sitting in my crawl. I got wind of a house on the corner of my street in Maplewood.
Okay.
That's gonna be turned into a sober house. Okay, I'm gonna be straight out and honest. I'm 35 years sober. I never had to go to a sober house, because I did this on my own. People that go to sober houses generally don't wanna be there. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if my neighbors find out about it, there is gonna be an uproar. And there is nothing that the city of Isani can do about it. It's state regulated. They have to come in, what did you say, Miss Wood? They had to have a permit?
They would obtain a home occupancy permit or
Yep.
license through the Community Development Department.
Which we couldn't deny them.
What'd you say?
Which we could not deny them.
Okay.
Now, you bring your kids to that daycare,
Used to, yeah.
or if you still
Probably-
did or
probably
whatever,
will in the future, yeah.
okay? You got some tweaker over there that doesn't wanna be there.
Yeah.
How's that gonna make you feel?
Well, I mean,
Rachel offers a huge asset to the neighborhood, the people of Isani. You know, by having a daycare, which is huge. I don't see any problem with that kind of thing. But what are we gonna do to deter an event like this to continue to happen? Because I'm gonna guarantee you what's gonna happen.
So how did we go from
I'm just
the
taking
business
this-
overlay
I'm
district
just-
to this?
What I'm saying
What's the
is-
relevancy here?
What the relevancy is we have things that we can't do anything about, that can change, that we could possibly futuristically change, that's gonna betterment the citizens, or do we have something at a business that we're not holding them back, but just requiring them to come in and have a conversation? I'm not having I can't have a conversation with these people to see about telling them they can't have their sober house, and there ain't nothing I can do about it to stop it. That's what my point is we allow certain things, but you're telling me we can't do this, but we can allow that. That's what my point is,
Well, that's the state for you.
well, it's not that, it's the same thing. It's, what I'm getting at is,
I get what you're saying, yeah, you
you know.
Well, I don't,
if you
so
hold
help
the-
me understand.
If you hold the 65 overlay as leverage, you can always come back from that, is what Steve was saying.
Yes,
Right.
Okay.
But, and I'm saying the opposite, is that I'd rather, you know, we don't hold it over and, you know, but I get your point, that's a good point.
that's the point I'm making. Is there something that we can't do anything about that's gonna happen? Where this, we can control what goes on. I don't necessarily agree that Isani Ready Mix, and I'm using them for an example, because they are out of the city limits, why I should be able to tell them what they can and can't do on their property.
I don't think we should be. I don't even know why it's in our zoning area, but that's my opinion.
Because it's at zoning
It's a tier 1 district,
tier 1.
That's not in the city limits.
correct, but theoretically could become part of the city limits in the near future, so oftentimes cities
Not
have
while that guy's alive.
jurisdiction over the areas that
And
are
I'm not
possible growth
forcing nothing.
areas.
I don't think anybody here would.
Well, and we don't have to force, we're not forcing him to come into the city, but we're just guiding development.
All right, I'm done.
Good luck with that. Okay, anything else we need?
Motion to adjourn.
I got the original motion actually from Councilman Lundin. I'll second it by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Therefore, we stand adjourned.